Hey everybody, you're now listening to Cup of Queens with Paige and Saray, and today we're so excited. We have Shannon Full, who is the president and CEO of the Fargo Moorhead West Fargo Chamber of Commerce. Shannon is the first female president of the chamber and is excited to bring more change to the community.
Shannon shares with us what it means to work in a supportive environment, how to cultivate a strong team culture, and different challenges she has experienced throughout her career. Shannon gives us advice on how to hold your ground in a male-dominant industry and encourages those around her to be a disruptor and not afraid of change.
So grab your cup and enjoy. Well, we're so excited. Shannon, thank you so much for being on Cup of Queens. So we're here with Shannon Full, who is the president of the Fargo Chamber of Commerce, and we're so excited because you're the first female president in that role.
Yeah.
So we're very curious about your background, how you got into that position. So, tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So nobody goes to college or dreams of being a Chamber of Commerce executive director or president. I will just tell you that. So I stumbled into this in a very weird way. I was a big volleyball player in college and then did a lot of coaching. So I coached a 16 and under traveling team. So we played at a facility in the Twin Cities that was brand new, had hospitality also was my background. I was a corporate trainer for the Applebee's Corporation while I went to college. And so we got to this facility and it was indoor volleyball complex with a restaurant and sports bar. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is kind of the best of all worlds for me, right? So I talked to the owners when I was there and they said, we're 3 attorneys. We really have no idea what the hell we're doing. And so do you want a job? And so they hired me literally almost on the spot. And my first duty was to get us visibility and traction in the community. So they're like, so join the chamber. And I was like, what's a chamber? I don't even know what a chamber of commerce is, right? So I joined the chamber, didn't know anything about it, and was immediately really intrigued with the mission of the chamber, like all about supporting businesses and promoting growth and helping to protect businesses and all about connection, right? So I started to get really involved from a volunteer standpoint. So did a lot of committee work and that type of thing. And this was at, I was like 22, 23 when I took this position or took this kind of role. And about 6 months into it, the executive director, the president of the chamber there said, I'm going to be resigning in the next 6 months. And I think you should look at taking my job. And, I said, with all due respect, I have no idea what you do. And I guarantee I'm not qualified for it. But she's like, well, let me coach you and mentor you a little bit. And I found that her work was really interesting. Like, I was like, all right, maybe I could see myself in this. And so, lo and behold, long story short, at the age of 24, I was hired for my first president and CEO job of a chamber. So,
wow, that's
incredible.
It was definitely, I think it was the epitome of drinking from a fire hose, right? I had no idea what the hell I was doing, but it was really fascinating. I immediately kind of jumped in both feet, immersed myself into the entire kind of the scope of that work, and got immediately involved in the state association and then soon after the national association, and just really liked it. So about 5.5 years into that role, we had one merger, one acquisition. The chamber, which was one community in the northern part of the Twin Cities, was now 8 communities. We had 5 times the membership by that time, and so it was just a really cool process. But I was 30, single, and sick of winter. So I said, I'm out. I want to try something new. Threw my hat in the ring all over the country to run chambers all over, and ended up in Melbourne, Florida. And
so amazing.
So I packed everything up and moved to Melbourne, Florida, right on A1A. It was beautiful. Kind of everything that you could dream of. When I got down there, it's a beautiful area, not as touristy, so there's a lot of business.
Cool.
But the piece that I was missing was Melbourne's a beautiful community, I think, to visit. What I was missing being from the Midwest was that sense of community. We have a lot of community pride here. People are really philanthropic, so there's a lot of volunteerism. we didn't have as much of that in Florida because it's really transient.
Sure.
So I missed kind of that part of it. And I realized about a year and a half into it that hot and hotter were not the two seasons that I wanted, believe it or not. It sounds funny, but I was kind of, deciding, gosh, I'm missing winter and maybe I want to go back. And so at the national association that I was really involved in by that time, the president of the National Association said, would you ever go back to the Midwest? And I said, yeah, at some time I think I will. About 6 months later, he called and said, Shannon, I have a position that I've just heard of and that I think you'd be really good. And you have to, they're really in need of a strong leader. And would you consider going to Cedar Rapids, Iowa? And I don't know how many of your listeners are from Iowa. I'm not trying to offend them, but I'm from Wisconsin, and I said, no, I'm not going to Iowa. I'll pass. And he said, yeah, but you really need to take a look at it because it's a community. Cedar Rapids was just destroyed by a massive flood, a 500-year flood. 5.6, almost $6 billion worth of damage, 5,400 homes and 1,200 businesses were destroyed. And the chamber is really going to be in a catalytic position to make a huge impact and a difference in this community. And so I said, okay, that's compelling to me. So went and took a look, and my heart just broke at this community with hearing the stories of these business owners. They would have one example, they would be company or business owners would come into my office. There's a gentleman by the name of Sam from Sam's Pizza. He came in with a shoebox of flooded receipts, and he said, this is all I have left of my business. Everything else is destroyed. Can you help me? I've maxed out my credit card. I've put a second mortgage on my home. I don't know what to do. So it's those kinds of stories that kept me like, okay, we're in this to really make a difference and help people. This is their livelihood. This is what their blood, sweat, and tears put into, right? So did that for about 2.5 years, was very happy there, but got recruited back to Wisconsin, to Appleton, Wisconsin, and another regional community, very similar size to the Fargo, Moorhead, West Fargo region. If you think about it, Cedar Rapids, Iowa, Appleton, Wisconsin, Fargo, Moorhead, West Fargo. These are all sizes of communities that I would call mid-level markets that have just tremendous character, tremendous people in them. And so I took that role, was there 6.5 years, did lots of unique, innovative things there. Unfortunately, then my dad became ill, so I moved back to the Twin Cities to help be closer to him, to take care of him, and was at the Twin West Chamber, 10 of the western suburbs, very different metropolitan marketplace, very fragmented, very bifurcated, beautiful area, just I really wanted a lot more cohesion. So really, again, wasn't looking to go anywhere. The same recruiter that brought me to Wisconsin is who brought me here to the Fargo Moorhead area. And we love it. So we moved in the middle of COVID on November, like end of October. Started December 1st, middle of November we moved, right at Thanksgiving time, actually.
Oh, wow.
And then started December 1st, and the rest is history.
Rest is history.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. That is just so cool how everything kind of fell the way that it did. It's like your path was just created so perfectly for what you were supposed to do.
Yeah, and it didn't feel like it at the time.
I'm
right?
sure.
It really, there were many times I was like, oh, what am I doing? And even my fiance, husband now, but fiance at the time, we went back and forth around, should we move to Wisconsin? Should we move from Wisconsin to Minnesota? Should we make the move now? We have an 8 and a 6-year-old. Like if we're going to move, we should probably move like one more time and then let them get settled. And so that was the big debate on coming here to this region. And so, there was a lot of contemplation, but there was also, I believe a little bit in fate. So there was a little bit of things happen for a reason type of thing. So,
Well, and obviously you did an incredible job at the other locations and markets that you were a part of, which opened the door to opportunities to these great communities that you've been able to help. And I love that you said, when you were 24, you were like, what is the chamber? And I think that we have a very large amount of listeners who probably don't understand what the chamber is and what you guys support within businesses within our communities. So Can you explain a little bit to what you guys do for some of our listeners who don't know?
Sure. I think chambers of commerce are really evolving. So even the missions of chambers have always been to support businesses. But my philosophy is also one that's different than my predecessor, is one that's maybe a little bit more catalytic leadership, disruptive type of an approach. But essentially, the mission of the chamber is really simple. We exist to be a catalyst for growth and prosperity. Mm-hmm. So that's growth and prosperity for individuals, for communities, for businesses, for the region. So when we look at it, we have a significant amount of our support is through our members. So we're a membership organization, but I say it now is that we're a growth and prosperity organization with a membership foundation, right? So we're built upon our members, but the work that we do impacts the community, whether you're a member or not. So we have tremendous, just over 1,900, almost 2,000 members. So we're a very large regional chamber across the country. This is a very large regional chamber, especially for this market. So there's a high level of engagement by our members. So we really center the work, we're now going to be centering the work. On October 12th, we'll have our big annual celebration. And this will be the first time that I'll be on stage talking about the vision of the chamber and where we're headed and what we're doing. But we're really going to be focused around kind of 5 major areas. So the first is all around business excellence, how creating connections like we're doing here around how can we help build businesses up? What do people need? So that kind of thing. So programming, events, all of that. The second piece is all around the people side of the work. So talent and workforce. Big challenge for this region, not unlike across the country. The ability to attract, retain, and develop talent is a really significant issue here. And so this work is going to be focused all around how do we have a kind of a transformational plan to engage K through 12, future talent pipeline, post-secondary, all 5 of our colleges, with the immediate talent pipeline, like those kind of hidden talent pools. So recently released incarcerated to new American immigrant populations, to make direct connections with our local businesses to help support those local businesses. But also within that talent and workforce space, we'll also continue to do work for our Young Professionals Organization, really robust Young Professionals Organization. Great way for young professionals to connect with other businesses, but also with one another to find that social infrastructure that's so important to keep people in the community. And then our whole women's programming. So our Women Connect, we've got just over 600 women that are involved in our Women's Connect programming. And so that's everything from monthly programs to connections like this to really big speakers, Rachel Hollis, we have Mel Robbins coming in June of next year. So it's all about relationships, right? Leveraging those relationships. Then we'll focus some more on public policy and advocacy. This is a piece that if you've got listeners that love like civic engagement, this is a place for them. This is a really important part of the work that we do. And it's all about what policies are hindering or helping our businesses. Are they state policies, local policies, federal policies? How do we help shape those? How do we help influence them? How do we build awareness around that? So that's that part of it. We'll have another focus really on kind of community and economic development initiatives. So what are the big community initiatives and how does the chamber play a lead role in that or a support role in that? It might be the diversion, it might be housing, childcare is another big one that we're hearing. So those kind of big rock community issues. And then the final one is the only one that's internal focused, and that's around organizational excellence. So making sure we're a high performing organization with a culture of a team that everybody wants to be a part of, that type of thing. So really exciting work that we're doing. We do a lot, but I would say more than anything, I think we need to tell our story better. We don't do that very well. Sure. And we perhaps need a refresh of our brand because chambers of commerce generally have kind of a tired brand. So we're also looking at how do we vibe that up a little bit.
Cool.
So yeah, it's fun.
That is so exciting.
And I feel like you've probably seen so many impactful moments, just so many different things since you moved to Fargo. What are some of those favorite moments that you've witnessed, or maybe areas of change that you've seen?
Yeah, so I think what's a really exciting one for me, I'll share an internal one and then an external one. So internally with my team, I am ridiculously blessed to have an amazing, dedicated, passionate team that's working together on the mission of the work that we're doing. But what's been so fun to see in front of my eyes is this evolution and transformation of a team that now is really very empowered. I'm a very transparent leader, so I'm very open book to anything. I want my team to learn, to understand not only where do they fit in the whole perspective of the team, but how does their work impact and influence all of what we do. So that's been really fun, just to see kind of a new renewed excitement by the internal team. I would say that's one thing. From an external standpoint, it's kind of the same thing. We are seeing whether they are brand new volunteers that are just learning about the chamber and finding their passion point, their passion area within the chamber, or if it's long time. I mean, we've got some of our ambassadors that have been a part of the organization for 20 to 30 years. So they've been volunteering for that long. But I'm also seeing kind of a revitalized, kind of just this really cool vibe that's going on. So I would say that's a big deal. The chamber has always been at the table. I think now we're also kind of redefining where we want to go in the future. So I am a catalytic leader and a disruptor by nature. So I'm a self-proclaimed disruptor. So I like to come in and kind of shake things up a little bit. Not for the sake of just shaking them up, but just to say, hey, let's take an analysis of this. How do we do continual improvement? All of that kind of thing. So it's just a really, really fun time for the chamber, for the community. We're experiencing tremendous growth in the community. So there's a great vibe. So
that is awesome.
And you can feel your energy and passion. So I love that. I think that's so great, and that's so great for Fargo. So
the disruptor I absolutely love, because I know we've talked about it on a couple of our episodes, but how getting into uncomfortable situations or getting into, areas of change can sometimes feel scary, but that's oftentimes when you grow a lot.
Right.
So when you disrupt, I think that just says a lot about how much you want to see the growth.
Right.
And one thing I think you probably focus on a lot is team culture. You mentioned how your team has become a huge asset to you. I would love to hear what you feel is really necessary to build that strong team.
Yeah. And I think it's fun for me because I have two teams, right? I have my internal team, which are our staff, but we have a massive amount of a volunteer team, whether that be all the different programs, like YPN has a team, our leadership program has a team, our board of directors is a different team, our ambassadors is another team, right? So I try to instill some of these same values in all of those areas. But I would say, some of the big core ones for me are, without a doubt, transparency and trust. So I talked really about the need for transparency. I think too often, sometimes teams withhold, or individuals on teams withhold information because they feel threatened by it. If somebody knows it, then is my job at threat, or are people seeing that maybe I'm not living up to their expectations, or whatever that might be, right? And so that trust and transparency is a big deal, right? So not only are we transparent, but I trust that I can kind of be really candid with you, right? So we really want to have open communication, right? So I want to have a culture of where we embrace failure. So we actually want to push people to the area outside of that comfort zone, which then means there will be failure that will come with that, right? Because we learn our greatest, the greatest amount from those times that we fail in that area. Really trying to make sure that everybody has a voice. They're able to be heard. We've changed kind of even our internal staff meetings now, much more collaborative in nature, much more an opportunity that everybody gets to bring thoughts to the table. So that's a big part of it. A lot of respect that you can imagine. But the other thing for me is I'd like to really empower people to bring new ideas to the table. So part of the disruption, and I've spoken quite a few times on courageous disruption, because it takes courageous will to bring some of these to the forefront. And then more than anything for me is really supporting my team members. So if you go out on a limb and there's a failure, I'm not going to turn on you and say, oh, well, that wasn't my fault, right? That was your fault. So, so really empowerment, a big one on raising people up. So what is your plan? What is your goal? It doesn't have to be aligned with the chamber, right? If your goal is you want to own your own company in 3 to 5 years, great. How do I help you get there, right? What types of professional and leadership development are you looking for? What fills your bucket, right? So that's the whole thing around how do we make sure that we're continually looking towards that? Because when we do that, that's how the organization benefits. We don't have to constantly be looking at how do we get more members? How do we have more revenue? But if we put some of that time into developing our team members, they'll automatically do that for us. So.
Oh, that's incredible. I think that's something that maybe gets overlooked a lot in different businesses is putting that support back into your team. You know, it always seems, oh, our numbers or, the bottom line, whatever that may be. And so I love that that's something that you really preach to your team and try to instill.
And it was really demonstrated in, as I mentioned, when we unveiled these 5 cornerstones, 4 of them are very mission focused. They're very external focused. But I was very adamant that we had one pillar or one cornerstone specifically focused on organizational excellence, so that my team knows, but also the community knows that we're taking this very seriously. We're going to invest in ourselves just as much as we invest outside externally in some of the initiatives that we're doing. So.
That is such a good point. It really does benefit all areas at once. And I think it's so incredible that you take time to focus on that.
Good.
Are there ever any areas of culture that you think, and I maybe just answer my own question, but businesses that they commonly overlook? Do you ever see any traits?
I do think oftentimes you get so, it's that whole adage of if you're working in the business, it's hard to work on the business. And so if you get so entrenched in the business on how many widgets are we going to put out, or what is our revenue? How do we cut expenses? How do we make sure the bottom line? How do we make sure there's enough profits going to the stakeholders? Oftentimes, if it's solely focused in the business, it's very hard. You almost have to make yourself or have somebody else help you step back enough so you can see the 30,000 view, right? Sure. And you can work on the business, because it's really hard to do both. And so I do think that's probably one of the biggest pitfalls that business owners have is just kind of that feeling like you're running on the hamster wheel, right? And you're not taking that step back to let the wheel stop and actually assess where we're at and what we're doing. Easier said than done, right? I get it. But I also think it's really great to have team members that complement that, right? So I have these are the core values, and we want to still instill them. But for instance, I'm very much the visionary of our organization. This is where I want to see us. I'm constantly looking at the future, very much a forecaster, all of those types of things. So in order to do all of this, I need to have a really good team of implementers and executors, right? So it's also, I think, business is also sometimes make the mistake of, oh, I want to hire this person because they're much like me, right? I want to be surrounded by people that are like me instead of people that are going to push and pull me or people that are going to augment me, right? And so oftentimes it's easier to surround yourself with a bunch of friends, right? Because this is fun. Yeah. But it's not necessarily the best business decision. So that's the other kind of side of it around.
Yeah.
That's a great
That
point.
is good.
Yeah.
We would totally miss this point if we didn't talk about it. Being Cup of Queens and focusing so heavily on women. We talked about it a little bit in the beginning, but being in your role, being that you are the first woman president within this position in Fargo, that's incredible. And what do you feel that means to our community with having not only one but two of you are actually first time women leaders in the chamber, correct?
Yeah, when we have both a woman chair and a woman CEO. We've had women chair the organization before, but as it relates kind of to this position, I'm one of these that it's kind of a double-edged sword for me, right? Like I am really proud to be the first woman to lead this organization, but I'm also super competitive, and I'm like, well, yeah, but I got the job on the merits of the qualifications, the experience, and the background that I have, not necessarily because I was a woman.
Exactly.
However, I'm super humbled and blessed that I got to be kind of that trailblazer in this role. And I would say that we're seeing this very much play out in our community, right? You're seeing significant roles in our community being held by women now, right? I do believe there's a tremendous support, men supporting the elevation and empowerment of women, right? A lot of companies, and it's not even just women, it may also be, the elevation of diverse populations within this, right? Diversity, equity, and inclusion is a massive, massive kind of goal for many companies. It's also part of, I think, not just the goal of the company, but if you're going to have a really successful longevity in that, it has to be part of your integrated culture, right? And so I think this community is really open to that, very empowering. I've said, so I came in less than a year ago, and I've already created or formed what I would call kind of this, I call them like the group of godfathers that are taking me under their wing and helping me to make those introductions and show me around, really want to see me be successful. But I also have a tremendous group of women mentors that have significant leadership roles in the community that are helping to kind of just ensure that I have the connections that I need, that I've got the sounding board, right? Too often, especially as women, we often place ourselves out on an island. We don't ask for help when we need it, right? Because heaven forbid we show any weakness. And I think it's we also aren't very intentional, right? We're oftentimes and I know this has happened to me numerous times in my career where I was just assuming that you're one of my mentors, right? Instead, I should make it very intentional and ask, hey, I could really use some help in this area. Would you mentor me? I'm looking for a mentor for, 6 months to a year that could help me do this, right? So that intentionality behind it is also really, really important. But I'm thrilled to be a part of this community. And I think it is, it's also been, I'm not going to tell you it's all been roses, right? There is definitely still good old boy networks and a good old boy culture in some areas. So I was just mentoring one of my team members about this, and she was asking the question around, how do you navigate that, Shannon? And I said, there's a fine balance. There's a fine balance of ignoring some of it, to addressing it head on, or to just playing the game. And sometimes you just have to play the game. And so it's deciding at what point does playing the game, does it help the organization? Does it help me personally? Does it compromise my own integrity and my own goals and my own values? So it's a lot to kind of look at, but it's also like I said, we're at such a great time. But we also have a long way to go. We have a long way to go to help identify how do we empower and elevate the work of women specifically, but also that of our minority leaders, of our diverse populations, those types of things. So, yeah.
Wow.
Joyful, honest, emotional, unscripted. These are a few words that make up Nicole Midwest Photography. Nicole Midwest is a Midwest-based photographer but is willing to travel anywhere for her clients to capture their true love.
Nicole prides herself on capturing wild love. She has been shooting weddings since 2017 and has a team of 8 behind her. Nicole Midwest also offers mini sessions. Check out her website, NicoleMidwest.com, to learn more.
Are you able to share any of those specific challenges and, kind of how you've overcame those?
Sure. I think there are, I'll give you one example. And I won't get too specific because I worry that the people that I'll talk about will not like it too much. But there was a group that I was part of a text chain with 4 very I would say very well-known leaders in the community. Mm-hmm. All great guys, mm-hmm. but 4 guys and myself. And we were talking about, or they were talking about on the text chain of when we get to some certain thresholds that we're looking at, we're going to celebrate, right? Yeah. And mm-hmm. it was, we'll celebrate by having cigars on the boat. And what kind of cigars do you have in your humidor? Mm-hmm. I can't wait to smoke them with you, right? Mm-hmm. Well, I'll be the first to tell you, I'm not a really big cigar smoker, right? Mm-hmm. Like but part of that, I could have reacted in 3 ways, right? I could have ignored it, which then I probably wouldn't have been invited on the text chain in the future, right? Right. I could have addressed it, mm-hmm. which could have made it even worse. It's mm-hmm. like, okay, now, super uber sensitive. That's not. Instead, it wasn't jeopardizing any of my integrity or the core values. Instead, I came back with, okay, I'm going to play the game, right? I'm mm-hmm. going to be a part of this. And so mm-hmm. I fired back with, happy to have a cigar with you guys. Can't wait to celebrate, right? Mm-hmm. And believe it or not, I probably will have a cigar, right? I've had one before. It's now, do I do this normally? No, it's not but it was one of those, that's just one example. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There will be many others. So, especially when we're dealing with public policy, mm-hmm. We have a lot of elected officials, especially at the state legislature, much more so in North Dakota than so in Bismarck than in St. Paul. But I remember my first, outing to Bismarck. We went 5 times during this session, and it was very interesting to just see the dynamics, the mm-hmm. working dynamics, right? From one legislator, hey girls, how you doing, to, dinners and invitations and all of that. So it just takes, it takes balance. It takes kind of self-awareness mm-hmm. and some courage along the way, right? And I would also say relying on those that want to support you mm-hmm. to help be your champion and your advocate as you go through it. So
absolutely. Mm-hmm. I love that you mentioned the boys club because we actually just interviewed a gal, Caitlin, and she works in financial planning and it was very male dominant. Mm-hmm. And she, told us how she was kind of sick and tired of always working for mm-hmm. the boys club. Yep. And, she shared with us some really hard times that she had to work through to kind of navigate through that environment of being a woman in a male dominated industry. And I feel like you would have some really great advice for the women listening on how to work through mm-hmm. that position. How do you have that confidence to be in that text club?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think there's a couple things. The first is really, so part of it is having a really good sounding board. So mm-hmm. for me, I've got here already, but definitely I can tell you in my past positions, past communities, I had a really small, tight group. So I describe it as my tribe, right? And the tribe that I talk about is I guess stole this from one of my very good friends from Durham, North Carolina, but it's that dime, nickel, quarter tribe. So the dime tribe is the really tight. I'm talking 3 to 5 people that I really feel comfortable with, that I could say anything to, right? That nickel tribe might be a few other ancillary people that support, but I don't necessarily have as my best friends, right?
Sure.
But that's where I see most of this sounding board piece, where I can identify, a good handful of women that I could say anything to, and I could really ask them some candid questions, seeking advice. What do I do in this situation? Or even worse, I did this. Now, how do I undo that?
Yeah.
Right. And so that's a big part for me, is that sounding board. Who do I go to? And it's not all women, right?
Sure.
There are some men that I could say, I am so sick of this good old boys club. What do I do about that? And I do think we also have to be really careful as women not to alienate all men because they're men, right? There are a lot of men that are very, very supportive and really are striving to help women kind of break that glass ceiling, break down the barriers, all of that kind of thing. So I think that's a big part of it. The other part of it is having enough intuition to realize, should I engage in this or should I not?
Yeah.
Is this worth my time or is this not? There are people that I have had in my career that I know I will never change their mind. So why do I beat myself up trying to do that, right? Instead, is there a way to circumvent that? Is there a way to work through other people? How do you surround yourself? You can't have positivity all the time. I'm not naive enough to think that. But I've focused a lot more on what things do I have control of, what things can I change, and what things can't I. What I've discovered is you can't really change other people, right?
Right.
So instead, how do I make sure that I am constantly learning, adapting, having enough self-actualization and awareness to make the necessary tweaks that are needed? So those are the things that I would say I kind of lean into. Versus this, it's that would be some of my advice, and way easier said than done in some matters, right? I've got numerous stories that where you feel beat down, you feel like you want to quit, right? But then it's again going back to that same tribe and saying, I need some help here, right? Like when I feel defeated, being able to say, I feel defeated, and by the way, can you help pick me up? I need a little help right now. I think oftentimes we don't do that. We're so proud. We're so, heaven forbid, there's any chinks in the armor.
Totally.
We want it to be all perfect, right?
Yeah.
So.
Heaven forbid you ask for help.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
I love that sounding board theory, though. I think that is so cool, and we have an area where our listeners can write into us, and I'm seriously like, man, we need to have like a Shannon sounding board where people can write into you can come back with responses.
Bring it on.
Like an editorial, what would Shannon do kind of thing.
Totally.
I don't know that I have all the answers. The only thing is that I learn the best from other people's stories and examples, right? And being able to build upon that. And so, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention kind of all in this whole scoop. The one thing that I noticed, so when I came in to the community, I was really intentional. I did in the first 6 months over 200 face-to-face meetings during COVID with business and community leaders to really identify what are the greatest challenges facing the community, but also where are there gaps and where are there opportunities? And one of the biggest things I heard was we as a region have lots of different programs. So for instance, Lady Boss is a great organization that supports women, right? The Chamber has Women Connect. There are numerous other women's groups. What I had discovered though is there is a void for C-suite women professionals. And so I was a part of a very impactful C-suite women's group, a women's leadership council before. We're going to steal that and kind of bring it here to this region. So if there's anybody listening that's in that kind of C-suite level, this is going to be a sounding board. It's going to be a C-suite sounding board for when we say C-suite, we're really saying owners, CEOs, VPs, senior level talent. And the reason we say that is because we want some type of synergy amongst that group. But we have two main goals. One is the whole goal is to elevate and empower women. But two tactical pieces are we want to place a certain number of women in C-suite positions. So we constantly are striving to elevate women into the workplace. Yeah. But then we also want to place women in paid boards of directors. So private sector boards. So financial institutions have a board of directors, right?
Yeah.
You look at private sector boards, they are majority, I remember the last stat, 80, 82, 85% are male on all of these paid boards of directors. So how do we start to level the playing field in that regard as well? So, so this initiative is going to be called Speakeasy. We're gonna do it in partnership with Lady Boss. But I'd be remiss if I didn't say I'm so excited. Like this is one of my passion areas. I can't wait
awesome.
to help kind of lead that group. And I would say the group's going to lead itself. I just get to be the one that gets to be a part of that. So my good friend Jody Duncan and I from Lady Boss, we're going to do this, and it's going to be great. We'll unveil it on October 12th at our annual celebration for the chamber, and I have a feeling we'll run with it pretty quick. So
so exciting! I can't wait to see the fire. I can't wait to see how it takes off.
Yeah, and I think it's very creative. Speakeasy is the name. So there's two it's a double entendre because one is kind of that, if you go to a speakeasy, right, it's kind of this quiet group, just like a quiet bar. You can't really find it, right? But we also have the other play on it is we want you to be able to speak easy when you're there.
I love that.
That's that whole approach. So
genius.
That's
what
so
a great
awesome.
idea.
So were you a part of that at another chamber before?
Yeah, not a chamber, but in Minneapolis, there is a very successful women's leadership council.
Cool.
And so we kind of took the model of some of that and we'll bring it. But there are lots of chambers around the country. So this is the other nice thing. I'm on 2 national boards. So I get a lot of best practice sharing. I chair a group of 65 chamber execs from all over the country that are similar size communities as the Fargo, Moorhead, West Fargo area is. And so we get a lot of great ideas that way, but it's really it's a great opportunity. And so, so this was, many other chambers are doing initiatives like this as well. So we have lots of ideas.
Awesome.
So cool.
That's great. Okay, so we have a fun game, but we have one more question. Can you give us an example of a time when you saw a woman being a true queen, or another way to word it is, what is your definition of a queen?
Yeah. I think my definition of a queen is going above and beyond what anybody thinks their own capacity is to benefit others. And so I'll give a perfect example. One of my greatest mentors in my 21-year career, her name was Joyce Bidoff. This was in the Appleton area. She was, and I would say, the most, like the epitome of a community icon, right? Everybody knew her. She had time for everyone. She was never too good, too busy. She was just very serving of lots of others, right? So she was on, I don't even know how she did it, right? So many boards of directors. She ran a very successful business. But she was always willing to give just a little bit more of herself to better the community, to better somebody else. That's what I think of when I think of a queen, right? Very humble. Humility goes a really long ways, right? So very humble, but also just just really all in for the benefit of others. So.
Perfectly said.
Very well said.
I feel like you should get that whole sentence framed and hang it in your office and then read it every day because
I'll have to rewatch the podcast because I won't remember what I said. So everyone's like, "Oh, that sounded so good." I'm like, I have no idea what I said.
That's why you need to print it out and you need to hang it.
That's it.
Well, and we want to hear more of your insights, and so we're gonna play our game now.
Okay.
And
no, I'm nervous.
It's gonna be fun. It's a little abstract, but I think you'll be great at it. So it's called Shannon's Full Cup.
Okay.
So we're playing a little off your last name, but also playing into Cup of Queens. And what we want to know is we're gonna give you a couple different categories.
Okay.
And we want you to tell us either what your favorites are in them, or what you do to maybe help supplement these areas of your life, what you do to fill that cup.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, being that you are in such an awesome industry, we know you're wearing some business clothes. We need to know where you're getting the good outfits. What?
Oh. Where do I shop? Okay. I am a diehard boutique girl. So I'm one of these that doesn't love online shopping.
Keep ours local.
I really love to go into shops. So gosh, and I hate to call certain ones out, but so I'm pretty newly addicted to Olive Street. They are really great.
Yes.
That's where this is from. That's where, there's just that's a really great one. I love some of the boutiques downtown. So Kindred People is another one that I love. It depends if I'm going casual or dressy, obviously. Picked up some great stuff from Leland and Lavender. I just really love boutiques.
Awesome.
I was just in Detroit Lakes and Park Rapids. I hit boutiques every time I'm in some
there you
town,
go.
right?
Yeah.
So that would be my big deal. So
Love it.
That's good. Yeah. Okay, so what about confidence? How do you, maybe you're having an off day.
Fill your cup with confidence.
Yeah, need a little pick me up.
So I look to those people on my sounding board, right? I'll and I'm pretty honest about this, right? Like my day is not the greatest. Give me something, right? Generally my group that I have in my Facebook group, there's always, I can just review that because there's always somebody putting some motivational, something out there, right?
That's awesome.
I get a lot of it from my staff. So when I go talk to my team, just their energy, I'm drawn to energy. I also get a lot from my kids and my husband. So my kids and my husband are kind of obviously just like everybody else, my world, right? But even tonight, my daughter is 8. I said I was coming here to do this podcast and interview, and she said, "Mom, could I go with? I'll just sit there, but she's like, I just want to watch you, right?
My God.
So I'm
She should have.
So those types of things I can just draw back to some of those. I was when she was 3.5, I was the graduation speaker at my commencement speaker at my graduation of my high school, and I just remember her little face. She was so proud. She wanted to come up on stage. So those kinds of things is what builds it up for me.
That's so sweet. It kind of brings tears.
I know. I get super choked up, so I can hardly even say it. So,
well, and that leads perfectly into our next one, being speeches, pre-speech jitters. How do you fill your cup before a speech?
It might be. I don't have a whole lot of pre-speech jitters.
They're just non-existent.
Part of it was I was a theater minor in college. So I don't. There's a lot of great theater people out there. I was a theater minor and a business minor and a communications major. So I love this, right? I love interviews. I love speeches. But I will say, if I'm delivering content that I am not as comfortable with. If I have to give a speech that I need to look at a script, like I am off the cuff. You can tell I'm a pretty
And you're rocking it.
Yeah. So that's my deal, right? So part of it is preparation, like making sure I go over the speech numerous times. I also try to set myself up into situations that I don't have to be fully scripted, right?
Sure.
Like give me some bullet points, but even this big, our big annual celebration on October 12th, is going to be really, I want a high energy and I don't want to be reading a script.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's just not me. So I think the other part of it is being really true and authentic to yourself. So what is it that, what is the type of speaking situation and how do you make that more aligned with your authentic self? If you're a script person, tell everyone you need a script, right? I mean, sometimes when we force ourselves into something, then we lose all the authenticity and all the genuineness of it, and then it doesn't ring true to people, right?
Totally. Love that.
Yeah. All right. What about a midday pick-me-up? Are you a coffee gal?
I'm a coffee gal. I'm probably more coffee than I need. Every once in a while, that sweet treat, whether it's just, and I am one of those, I need one bite of something, right? I don't need a dessert.
Then
I just
you're
need
good.
like one, just give me a taste of that. That's a big one for me. I'm also a big, I'm constantly on the go. So my average days are 6 to 8 meetings a day. So it's not like I'm, a lot of times people are saying, no, I'm sitting at my desk. I get tired. I have to get up and walk around. For me, midday, I'm like, I just have to sit for a minute.
Yep.
Like, just give me a little bit of
Zen.
Yes, give me a little breathe here. So that's probably it's less of a midday pick me up more than a midday calm me down.
Like
right?
to bring
Just
me
like
down.
Just let me be for a minute. So
You are segueing us perfectly into the next questions because we also want to know how do you fill your cup to relax?
the biggest part, for me, getting home from work and I'm going a million miles an hour is really just my kids. Mm-hmm. How was your day? What can we do? Can we, can we just lay down and relax? And they tell me about their day and that type of thing. I would say my husband probably doesn't like this too much, but I'll be constantly like, oh, my neck really hurts. So can I get a little massage? Like literally almost every day. So he is getting really good at that now. After we just celebrated 10 years of marriage, he could probably be his own masseuse. But so that's probably another thing. I'm a wine girl, mm-hmm, so a glass of wine and just calm. I'm also kind of this. I'm on the go all the time, so I'm also like if I get an opportunity, I'm kind of a TV show
totally.
Junkie, not good for you stuff. I mean
like trash TV, reality. I totally get
reality TV, like stuff that I'm like is so far removed from anything that I would do in my normal life. This is just like I could watch.
But that's why you watch it.
Yeah,
because it's like this is so not what I live.
Yeah, it's fun.
It drives my husband crazy. Right? He's like, please tell me you're not watching The Bachelor. I'm like, oh, I am. He's
Absolutely, I am.
So that's so dumb. I'm like, it is, but.
Are you a Real Housewives person?
So I used to be. I haven't watched that in a long time, but I just think and now there's so much.
There's too many. It's like overwhelming.
If you're on Prime Video, if you're on Netflix, if you're on Hulu, I'm like, they all have recommendations. I'm like, okay, I don't have that much time. I maybe have 30 minutes, and then by that time I fall asleep, right? So I watch it, and I'm sleeping by 9 o'clock at night. So that's fine.
You have to go back, rewatch. I've lived that too many times.
Rewind, Oh, that's funny. Okay, favorite read.
Ooh. I have a lot. So I'll just tell you the read that I read it and now I'm doing the Audible. You guys are gonna laugh, but I'm a little infatuated with Green Lights, the Matthew McConaughey.
Yes, I have not read it, but I've heard the best things.
Mm-hmm. And so I read it first, and now on Audible, mainly just because I get to hear his voice.
His voice is amazing.
Because he reads it, right? I mean, he tells it. And
he tells it
he tells it because it's his life, right? Mm-hmm. So he tells it's basically the story, right? So, so I'm a little infatuated with that one right now. I'm trying to pick up all of the pieces that he puts in there because they're pretty good, right?
Yeah.
What else? That's been my lead Lean In, that was another really good one, right? That everyone loved one with Cheryl Sanderson. So,
and she was speaker here like a year ago, right? Lean In?
Rachel Hollis was.
Rachel Hollis.
And I thought she was too. It was a long time ago.
Maybe,
I feel like.
maybe
it was called Lean Out.
No,
I thought there was something, but
we'll have to look that.
Okay.
Fact check.
Yeah, so those are some of them.
Cool.
So.
Love it.
Well, we always love to get that because then we share it on the pod during the week. So.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, the other thing is, so we have the big Voices of Vision speaker every year, and the Chamber does this big event where they bring in, and so it's been Peyton Manning or Shaquille O'Neal, or we just had Admiral William McCraven, who wrote the book Make Your Bed. That was the commencement speaker, and he was the big decorated Navy SEAL that essentially was on all the missions, especially around Osama bin Laden. And so anyway, he was a brilliant speaker. His book is brilliant. But anyway, we're looking at what speaker do we want to bring in next. So, but of course, I'm like, let's bring in Matthew McConaughey.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, I would die.
Tickets will sell out.
I will just tell you right now, if there is any listener, all you women out there, if you want Matthew McConaughey to come to our region, I need some pretty big bucks to make this happen. So
everybody donate.
If anyone's infatuated with him and has a big checkbook to bring it on this way, I about died at how much he was going to cost. But I'm like, oh my God, I would love
that. Would be incredible.
Would it be incredible?
You know, never say never.
Never say never.
It could happen.
Somebody might know him. Maybe someone's related to him. I mean,
come
on. Bring it on. So.
All right. Well, this is our last one.
Okay.
And I think it's going to be your favorite one.
All right.
Fargo favorites.
Oh, how do I even I've barely been here, so it's really hard for me to do favorites kind of in general. But gosh, okay. Fargo favorites outdoor. I love Broadway Square. I love downtown Fargo. I think downtown Fargo has such character. It has it's so I love it down there, right? Favorite park, the park in our neighborhood in Rivers Bend is a phenomenal park for kids. So that's been a really good kind of kids park to take them to. Favorite restaurants, I am a foodie. And so I probably have 3 of them. And I really like places I can go to pair good wine with good food. And so Maxwell's is one of my favorite. Ramon at Maxwell's is like
the best.
Salt of the earth. Such amazing guy. I just love him. And then Mezzaluna and Rustica. So it's kind of all of those 3. But we have so many. It's hard for me. I was just at Soul Avenue Kitchen. I was blown away by Soul Avenue Kitchen, right there connected to Junkyard. They have great stuff. Luna is another one. So, and it's so unassuming, right? Like when I remember when I got here, some of the places I'm like, Luna's kind of, you can't really tell it. It's in the strip mall, right? Brilliant food, brilliant chefs. So anyway, those are some of my favorites in that regard. If there's other categories you want to tell them to me, and I'll tell you other favorites. But
I feel like food is everybody's go-to whenever you say your favorite place of a town or city, and those 3. Definitely my top 5.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I need to try Luna. I truly haven't been there, but I know I would love it.
Everyone raves about it.
This was so much fun.
This was
So much fun.
So
Thank you for all your insight, and most importantly, thank you for joining our community and all the incredible things I know that you're going to be doing. We can't wait to watch it unfold. And
well, don't just watch. Join in.
Yes.
Be a part of it. Be a part of it. And I would say that to all the listeners too. Like I said, the changing philosophy is less about are you a member, but it's more of, do you have a passion area for some of the things we're doing? And then we want you to lean into that, right? Lean into joining us, to being a part of that. I'm really excited. This community is positioned for so much greatness, and it's all because of the people that have such a love of the region, right? They really want to see people succeed. They want to see the region grow. They want to see us, we have to do a better job of telling our story, because we are in some pretty dire times of we need to recruit people here. So I would tell everybody tell everyone you know just how great this region is, and let's get more people here. But I so look forward to it. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. I would welcome the opportunity to come back anytime. And I just think you guys are doing such a great job by bringing this to so many women. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. Gosh.
So before we sign off, where can people connect with you? How can they get involved with the chamber?
Yeah. So the chamber's website is just fmwfchamber.com. You can go on our website. You can email me directly from there. Mine. It's pretty simple. It's just sfull at fmwfchamber.com. But you can. It's pretty easy. People finding me on LinkedIn, left and right. People are. This is another interesting thing about this community. So this community, different than my other communities, I've gotten more Facebook requests from community and business leaders. Normally I just use LinkedIn for that, right? I'm not kidding. It's probably 250 Facebook requests from community and business leaders, and I'm like, people are using Facebook for their business? And I'm like, that's like where my kids' pictures are and where, Oh, yeah. But yeah, I would say I'm super accessible. You could also just call the chamber if anybody's interested. I love this part of it, so I love connecting, especially with women. I love speaking at things like this and just trying to help lift women up and motivate people and that type of thing. So.
Awesome. This was so great.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us on Cup of Queens.
Cheers.